Hello, everybody. Welcome to Making Video Your Business, the podcast. And joining me today in the studio is he's a bit of a famous in the industry, actually. Him and his brother, the Baldock Brothers. But Matt, how are you, mate?
Yeah, good, mate. How are you? All right?
Yeah, very well, very well. So we got Matt on today because he's very noticeable online. Both the brothers are, and obviously this podcast centres around sort of putting more creative visuals into your business. And you've been in agency a lot longer than your brother, and you sort of almost pulled him into it because he used to be a policeman and work in security and stuff. But like, what was your path to estate agency?
Yeah, quite by accident, really. So my generation was that generation where you went to uni without really knowing why you're going
Likewise,
to uni.
yeah.
So I went to uni to get a law degree. And then I was in my last exam, and everybody else is back at my house having a barbecue, and I love barbecues more than I love money, it turns out. So I walked out of the exam, went to the barbecue, and I do still have a law degree, I should say.
Yeah.
My brother, it winds him up when I say it, but I do still have one, not a very good one. So came back to Chelmsford, didn't have a job, didn't know what to do. There was, as it with most towns back then, all the agents were on one street.
Still are a lot of places. I know there's some off-site places, but
yeah, I was walking up and down. And there was this guy, sharp suit, sat in the front window reading a copy of The Sun. Well, that's odd. Anyway, went probably to the pub wherever I was going. A couple of days later, walking back, same guy, different suit, sat there reading a copy of The Sun. And I just thought, listen, if this guy's making money doing that, maybe it's easy, which obviously it is not.
No.
So I think I used a mate's printer. It broke, so I had 8 CVs. There was 20-odd agencies. I just picked random ones, walked into one. They had a job for an office junior.
amazing.
Gave me the job about 21, 22 years ago, and kind of just
Never looked back since.
Just went from there, really. Well, I've looked back quite a few times.
I think what have I done?
As all my mates are solicitors.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, that's hard in itself. I mean, was there a light bulb moment where you're like, actually, I'm pretty good at this, or the skill set I already possess is going to allow me to make a career of this?
I probably can't pinpoint why, but I just seem to be good at it. And initially, I'd win some of the awards and things like that going out. But I think what I probably established quicker than maybe most do in their career, estate agency has nothing to do with property. It's all about people. I always say nowadays, if you're interested in property, become an architect. If you're interested in money, become a broker. Property is about people.
Yeah.
And I've got this obsession with stories. I love stories. I love hearing about people's stories, and you just get to hear about them all day long in agency. So for me, agency isn't a job. It's more of like a vocation. I mean, traditionally, it's not the best paid job when you're employed. And I think you can become people's kind of counsellor, psychoanalyst, everything. And I think you've got to really love it, but you've really got to enjoy speaking to people.
Do you feel that you've learned some old school techniques, like a roller deck with all your, your hot leads on, and you've merged it with your own learnings, like in the modern area with like digital and prop tech? Like, do you feel you span the two?
Yeah, and it's actually something that I discuss on my valuations still. I always say I'm old enough to understand this is about relationships, picking up the phone and speaking to people, but I'm young enough to still do all the digital stuff that the people need. We built our estate agency largely on Facebook. We were one of the first in Chelmsford certainly to be doing Facebook. And we've probably got we're the first into like the local hubs. We've probably got the most consistent following, and that's the one thing we did do consistently is that.
Let's talk a little bit about local dominance, like you just mentioned there. So you started using Facebook early adopters. Like, when was that? And was it setting up a community page, or were you just posting stuff on your personal pages? How did that all start?
So we were doing it in 2012, but we really went for it in 2014 when we came back to Chelmsford. It was just me and my brother that owned the company. But also somebody that we knew, I think it was one of the school mums, they said, look, we've got this idea. We want to set up these community hubs. So in Chelmsford, there's different kind of parishes. And they wanted to set up a community hub for each area. So what do you think? Do you think it's a good idea? And we're like, yeah, we'll back you. So we kind of like a little bit of sponsorship. We said, we'll be the agent in there. And actually that's where it's grown. So I know, so now people are being taught to kind of build these local pages.
Do you do salesy stuff in there? Do you give always educational stuff?
No, so we will interact, as I said, because we live in the area. If someone wants a recommendation, we can recommend because we're there.
From restaurants, pubs, schools, whatever, yeah.
We put properties for sale in the specific hub first because Chelmsford's kind of relatively close to London. So we had a thing a while ago where the big bad Londoners found us and were coming and buying all the houses. So we kind of made a pledge to the locals. We said, listen, we'll let you know about properties before they go on Rightmove and Zoopla. So we do that. So 48 hours before our houses go on any portals, they go to the locals. Sales stuff, anything. So we, we use Data Loft. and so I do the market reports and I'll put them in there. So, but it's never selling; it's always trying to give value
and just educate the local market.
Yeah.
And that's interesting. And I guess that group then, once you're a trusted member, people aren't seeing you as an estate agent. They know you are, and they can ask you a question about that. But they, like you say, they're not seeing you as this like sort of just trying to get work off everybody.
No, well, I think a couple of bits. So to answer kind of the question, some people will come to us because of that. So I was doing a valuation back end of last year, and then at the end they went, "Oh, by the way, we watched every single one of your videos in this specific hub." And they go, "That's why you're here," but they hadn't told anybody that was why.
And you didn't know they were watching either.
No, and because I have this thing called the invisible audience. Well, everyone has an invisible audience.
They do.
There's loads of people that will not like or comment on everything.
I'm probably one of those. I think they're called a snooper.
But yeah, so that's how it definitely does work. But also in terms of how people see me and see Neil, if I'm in Sainsbury's, I bump into someone I went to school with or haven't seen for years. They always ask me two questions. They always say, "How are the kids? What's the market doing?" So that shows me that my personal profile out there online is I'm a dad and I'm an estate agent.
Do you find that, or I think you should be an expert, and when I'm coming back down to the consultancy stuff, like, how does that process work? Because you could get maybe an older agent come to you and go, I've watched all your stuff and how does that work in me becoming a client of yours with regards to that?
So on the expert thing, I think even if you don't feel comfortable calling yourself an expert, if you act like an expert, that's it. It's the same. We had this over the last 2 years about being professional, because I don't wear shirts and ties anymore. And that was a massive thing in agency, and people were starting to say, my USP is I don't wear a tie. And I was like, no, it's not. You just don't want to sweat while you're on a valuation. But being professional isn't what you wear, it's how you act.
Yes.
Yeah. So when I'm at someone's house, am I an expert in the housing market? Yes, because I know what's going on. Would I walk around with a badge on saying I'm an expert? Possibly not.
Yeah.
In terms of with the consultancy side of things, we can... it doesn't matter how old you are, you can always learn. So there are some people that have only been in the job for 2 years that I will learn from, and also I can teach somebody who's been in the job for 30 years something, and we can all learn from each other. So we're much more, it's actually how we work in our agency. We don't want to work with everybody. We're not looking for market share. We're not looking for mass market. We want to work with the right people that we can genuinely help, and in return that they're going to see our value, but also do the work. I'm also in consultancy, because it's like a thing. I can tell you exactly what to do. I can show you how we did it. But if you don't put the work in,
or keep consistent,
keep consistent. I heard, I think it was probably on the Stephen Bartlett podcast, that he was saying about you can put, where you want to go in the sat nav, but unless you put your foot on the gas and drive the car, you're not going to get there. And that for me is like kind of a perfect analogy. So you can show people the way. So I have to look myself in the mirror and know I've done what I can to help the agency industry improve.
Yeah.
So if I've got someone speak to me, and they're not paying me any money, but they're a good person, they just want some help, of course I'm going to do that, because actually it benefits everybody if standards raise.
I think so.
And then some people I'll work with, great, some people won't. Nice thing about having me and my brother, we both have different skill sets. While we have the same kind of belief and values and a lot of crossover traits, we do have different skill sets and things we find more interesting. So if we're speaking to somebody about one thing, I go, actually, you probably want to speak to Neil about that. Because Neil go, actually, Matt can help you out with that bit, and we can work it that way.
Chris and I find that a little bit, actually. We've got exactly the same shared passion for the business and vision going forward. And, from day dot, everyone's been through their roughs and smooths, but like, we set up the business. Chris was working full time, in local government. I was self-employed with a media business, but stronger together, we feel, definitely. And I think that definitely helps us. You were talking about the Stephen Bartlett analogy there, in terms of you've got to put the work in. Like, here's all the rules and the steps, but you need to be active in this. How much interaction do you guys at the top have with the team? Is it top-down culture, like things you and Neil do are instilled, or you don't work here type thing?
Basically, yeah, and that's something that we've got our culture and our values, and we had them kind of rewritten, if you like. So me and Neil know what the values of ours are. We worked out that they're the way that we want to act in our day-to-day life as human beings. So we had the whole team together, and we just really said, look, you don't have to have these values, but if you don't have these values, then we're not going to work here.
Yeah.
And there's no falling out. I work with a really good recruiter. I said, I'll give you a number, I'll give you my blessings, we'll find you a new job. Actually, as it goes, you're working here because we saw the values in you when we.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And what we did was we went through the values, and what we did was we said for each one. So we've got one. So the first one is we care. We said, right, we care. What do we show? What do we do to show we care?
Actions.
And the team all said them, and we all committed to about 4 actions per one, and we all said, do we agree? This is how we'll act, and everybody agreed that's how we'll act. And they got sent out. And then on a Friday, all of us, including me and Neil, we email everyone emails the whole team with a minimum of 4 out of the 6 values, and saying one thing you did that week.
So it keeps them accountable, right?
Keeps them accountable. It doesn't have to be in work. It can, because one of them is we learn. So, they could be learning something outside of work. But it keeps them accountable. It also shows them they're doing it, because a lot of the time, especially with our property managers, that could be a thankless task. And they're going, oh, it's just my job. Of course I did this. It was just the job. So one of I said, I don't know what can I say. I cared. I said, well, you covered so-and-so's work, didn't you, when they were off sick? Yeah, but that was, of course I do that. And I said, well, actually, if you're in a big corporate, that doesn't always happen.
Not at all.
So
come back to a stack of paperwork after you've been ill.
Exactly. Yeah. And we find if you commit something in writing, it sticks in your brain a bit more. So when they're having these bad days and, are we doing anything? What we're doing here? They can still remember kind of what we're doing. And before they go home on a Friday, they're actually just reminding themselves of the good stuff they've done.
Have you had any trolls before on your content? You've been putting it out that long.
So I think that's the reason a lot of people don't do it. And it was something that held me back for years, And then one day I just thought, go over yourself, drop the ego. What I've worked out with content is people either like it or they don't care.
Totally.
And this is what I've been saying to a few people recently that have been saying, I want to do video and, I'm too scared to do it. So yeah, on the whole, you're not going to get anything. It's effort for someone to be negative. So usually they'll just kind of scroll. We've had a few things. I had someone tell me that I ate all the pies once. Weirdly, it was a Facebook post, and he was in Sheffield, so I don't know how it had got up there.
Yeah.
And my instant response is, "Well, that's because your mum's a feeder." But then it's on your page, and you're not sure what
yeah.
And the best one was in one of the local hubs. Somebody said that my features didn't fit my face, which was an odd one. But amazingly, one of the admin team from the hub just blocked him straight away and went right, and it barred him from the group. Because I say the community are good to us, and we were like kind of protected.
Totally, yeah.
But on the whole, LinkedIn is probably where I'm most known for in the estate agency world, not by the general public, for doing my content.
Yeah, I see a lot of your stuff on there, and less so on Facebook. But then I guess it only starts for me to comment or even like a couple of your posts, and the algorithm starts chucking me a lot more of you, right?
So I tend to do like stuff for CDC on Facebook and stuff for the industry on LinkedIn. So that's probably why you see most of the LinkedIn stuff.
Yeah.
And the thing that held me back for that was people negatively commenting, "Oh, who does he think he is?" Something like that. I'm not unaware of the fact that some people see my videos and think, "Oh, not this guy again," but they scroll, and then the ones that do like it watch.
Very much so.
And that's the way I think it works in agency. Ultimately, the people that see your value will pay for your value. So why would you want to worry about the others?
Or try and talk them into it.
Yeah.
Like
just kind of like work out who it is that, the demographic or the type of people that see your value, know your audience, and kind of go for them.
How often do you record video? How often do you post video out? And how often do you spend an hour or two of an evening engaging with what you've posted? Say if someone's commented on it.
Yeah.
What's your sort of your blueprint?
I have two things. We have kind of ad hoc and so every time we take a new property on, it goes to the community first. So that's as and when the properties come on, and depending on which part of town it's in. Every month they get the again. I using Dataloft, I drill down to the postcode subsection, so each hub isn't getting a generic Chelmsford, they're getting a specific one for their postcode.
Okay,
so and that takes some time to do, you know, because
but worth it, right? Otherwise, it just looks like a generic.
Yeah, and you've got to do it. But even you can do it. You download the JPEG, then I've got to go onto Instasize to get it right for Instagram story. So and it's all just like laborious, but it's worth doing. I try and commit myself to 3 videos a week for kind of LinkedIn. Every now and again I'll hit imposter syndrome, and so I'll do like written posts instead. And then I'll like, no mate, just go over yourself.
Get it on video.
And just kind of do it. The thing I've started doing more recently is actually subtitling the videos, because I have my phone on silent, and I think most people do. So actually, it's if you have the subtitles, it can be.
I think at the minute 85% of Facebook videos are watched without sound on, so that's super high.
And also narrowing down shortening the video. Sorry, not making them too long. My big thing, I used to start every video with telling people I was about to make a quick video, and by the time I do that, it made it longer. So I was like, what am I doing?
One of your aims this year is to simplify the housing market, right?
Yeah.
What's the plan with that, or what's the goal or the desired outcome with that?
So again, and this was why I did my first Facebook Live. And in terms of consistency, my aim is to do one of those every Monday night.
Okay, cool.
I've said it on a podcast now, so I have to do it. basically, what I said there was, this is by no means the worst housing market I've ever worked in, but I think it's the most confusing. I think in the banking crisis, we knew what was happening. We didn't know why. A lot of people didn't know why it was happening, but we knew people were losing jobs, houses were getting repossessed, prices were coming down. Now we're getting told mortgages are going up or are they coming down? House prices are staying where they are, coming down, and everyone's kind of got a view.
Very much.
And your house is worth nothing unless you want to sell it or refinance it. And you can't go and put a card in the brick and get a tenner out. It doesn't work like that. But we are obsessed in this country with prices and that. But it's just trying to explain to people it doesn't matter. And if it does go, there's some out there love to go. We're not going to go into negative equity in most areas. But if you are in negative equity, but you've got a 5-year fixed deal, you can afford the mortgage. As long as you come out of that and you're in credit. And again, that's the thing. In the 2008 banking crisis, people were taking 100% mortgages, 125% mortgages. People have put down much bigger deposits now.
Yes.
So it's going to be better. It's going to be easier. So I just think we're in a time where the market's never been more confusing. And that's really what I want to do. Really simply, just tell the truth.
Transparent.
So I put a post out today, and it does say prices are going to come down. But it also explains, but look how much your house has gone up by. So it's just
calm.
Just being honest. And I think that's what the public need. They don't need the clever sales pitches. They just need to be told, I can sell your house for this much money, or I can't sell your house at all, but that guy down the road might be able to. If your house falls through, I'm going to phone you that day and say, the house fallen through. This is what I'm going to do to get you resold, rather than the old days where we'd not tell anyone for 5 days while we tried to find a new, bad luck, your life's just been put on hold because, but good news, I found somebody else that'll buy it. It's ridiculous. So, just break everything down to basics, really. And I think that's what this year's about. It's doing, so if you want to go ABC, it's being held accountable to doing the basics consistently. And I just think if you do the basics consistently, you'll be okay in 2023.
Where can we find you? Where can people find you if they want to see your stuff?
So LinkedIn, in terms of industry, people, LinkedIn, you can find me on LinkedIn. But I'm on Instagram and Facebook also. I don't use Twitter.
And do you put, just finally, like we'll wrap up a little bit, do you put your team on video or do you ask them? Is it?
You have to respect everyone's boundaries.
Yes.
But we do. So Neil and the lettings consultant, they do a letting specific one. I've just recorded some Q&As with most of the team. So we're trying to guide, because again, they are nervous, but we're trying to guide them in. And I often find if you do a video with them, so if we just say, right, go and do a video.
They're never pressing record.
But actually, so it's only on Zoom. I ask them some questions, they answer them, because ultimately they're the experts in a lot of their fields. We'll chop and we'll put it out there. So then and as it starts going, and I think once they see they don't get any negative feedback, they'll start,
I think that's key. A couple of quick fires before we finish. Piece of prop tech you can't live without?
I'm a big Home Search fan.
Of course.
Oh, yeah.
That's Sam Hunter, right?
Shout out Sam Hunter, Simon Gates, Dan Crozier. But also Data Loft.
Clever the way they have so much data and they make sense of it. There's a lot out there, right? Favourite business book you've had recently?
So I'm a massive Simon Sinek fan.
I've just watched a video of it.
I don't know if you...
Yeah, I've watched... it was on a recommendation. It's only a 3-minute video, but... Trust versus performance. Sure. It talks about the Navy SEALs.
Yeah. He works with them a lot. So I get the feeling from our brief chats that you're going down that thought leadership, as opposed to like hardcore management.
Well, I mean,
but I would suggest it because I think that's another chat, leaders versus managers. Okay. So Simon Sinek, The Infinite Game. I genuinely believe if the whole of a state agency read it, we'd be in a much better place. The idea is not to win business; it's to stay in the game as long as possible. Okay, so you never win life. And I'm just quoting him here.
Yeah.
You don't win life. You don't win being a husband. You don't win being a friend. But you can be better at business. You can be better at life. You can be better as a friend. You can be a better husband. Yeah. So it's just constantly kind of improving. And even down to, you don't have competitors. You have worthy adversaries. And sometimes new players enter the game. Sometimes people leave the game.
Of course.
And ultimately you want to be in the game as long as possible.
Yeah, I like that.
But leave it on your own terms.
So exit strategies and stuff. Do you watch anyone online, whether it's podcasts or influencers or?
So again, I listen to his podcast. So he's got a great podcast called A Bit of Optimism.
Okay.
So he interviews a lot of people. So that's definitely worth doing. Stephen Bartlett, I do listen to. Gary Vaynerchuk. I think I'm like the love child of Gary V and Simon Sinek, basically. But yeah, those.
Well, Chris and I sort of not started this business, but. You've read Crushing It, one of his earlier books. And that there's so many nuggets that we still use from there. And a lot of it is consistency and, what do you do in those hours when you're not at work? And he puts it, he's quite a brash New Yorker for anyone who hasn't heard of him, but he does speak truth. And anything, there's common myths about the property industry or estate agents that are just simply not true.
I don't know. I think the old cliche is that we just swan around looking at really nice houses all day and driving BMWs and earning a fortune, and it's not. Ultimately, entry level agency isn't massively well paid. It's hard work, and as I say, agency is about people, not the properties.
Yeah, that's a great one. And I suppose anyone listening to this, young or old, if you're looking to get into agency, people's person, right?
Yeah, if you come for an interview with me and you say I love property, then you're not getting the job. No. So that's the key. You always get that in interviews. Oh yeah, I really love property. What do you mean you love property? Like, well, I love front doors. It doesn't make any sense. So no, agency is about people.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll get you back on to do management versus leadership another time. Yeah. Thanks for coming on.
No, mate. Thank you, mate.
Yeah, good stuff.